Hello and welcome to today's webinar, which is all about the Reach IT April 2022 release. My name is Heidi Rasakari and I will be introducing today's webinar. Please note that all the presentations are pre-recorded, but the question and answer session is in real time. Today's presentations will be delivered to you by my colleagues Vasilios Safoutis, who will provide a status update of Reach IT, as well as Alexis Quintana Sainz, who will be sharing how to declare only representatives in Reach IT. Today you can expect from this webinar to get all the latest updates on the recent Reach IT features that have been made available following the release in April earlier this year. You will also learn about all of the upcoming developments that are currently in the pipeline for Reach IT. And of course, you will also be able to submit your questions and receive answers to them from one of our experts. If you would like to submit a question, you will need to join our live Q&A at slido.com using the event code on the screen, or you can use your scanner and scan the QR code available. Do send your questions between 11 and 1 o'clock Helsinki time, and remember to only submit questions that are within the scope of today's webinar. If you would like to submit some other questions or questions after the webinar, you can use the contact form available at the link on the screen. And of course, with all of our webinars, we do make all of the material available. This includes the video recording, the presentations, and the Q&A. You can find this material available from our webinars page.
Hello also from my side. My name is Vasilios Safoutis. I'm the product manager of Reach IT. And today we're going to discuss together for 10-15 minutes the latest features that are already available in Reach IT since the April release. And also we're going to look at what will happen in the Reach IT world for the next couple of months, give you a small overview and a summary of things to come soon. If we jump immediately on the different features that are already available for you, we can start with the joint submission improvements, where in the members list in the joint submission, you may have seen already some dates that they are now appearing, where before they were not, and mainly on the reference number status and also on the change of the data requirements. If we go a bit more specific here, you will see that under the reference status column, there is the date here, and also under the data requirement column, another date. The reference status column date indicates the date since the registration number is valid or there are any changes in this validity. Let's say, for example, if it becomes inactive, then you will see that date since when this asset is inactive. In the data requirements column, there is an indication on the date which any change in the scope of the registration in terms of the data requirements has happened. Now, in principle, those two dates could be the same, as we see, for example, on the third row here. But if we go, for example, in the first row, we have a registration that was submitted in 2013, as we see here from the active under the reference status column. And then we see that in 2018, the registrant submitted an update expanding the scope of the registration to Annex 10 requirements. So one can extrapolate from here that previously could have been covering a lower annex, could be covering Annex 9 or even lower than that. Now, this feature was requested by our users since it is providing a snapshot of the status of all the registrations in the joint submission. And in that way, it's easier. It can facilitate, let's say, those indications. They can facilitate any sort of data sharing discussions that need to take place. If we move now to another improvement here, again relevant to the joint submission, from now on, the lead registrant can lower the joint submission acknowledgement by just updating the lead dossier and submitting it. Previously, the lead should have contacted ECA, and ECA will provide this service for them. But now, the lead registrant can do that themselves. There are some prerequisites here. For example, the member dossiers cannot be in a higher tonnage band than the one that the lead is submitting for the joint submission. At the same time, another improvement, let's say, that we have implemented is that the lead registrant can now also remove any indication about any sort of shared documents within the joint submission. For example, the chemical safety report and the guidance on safe use. This can happen as well by updating the lead Euclid dossier. The prerequisite here is as well that none of the members of the joint submission are relying to this information or to those documents being submitted by the lead. As long as they have their own chemical safety report and or the guidance on safe use, then the lead can update this information also with the lead dossier. Next feature that is available for you is the downloadable list of registrations. This you can access this report. You can request this report if you go to the Reach IT menu. I will show you in a while where it is. And in this report, you will get, after requesting it, a CSV file with information of all the registrations that have been submitted by your own legal entity there. And also a lot of information on the registration context of all those registrations, like substance ID, the status, the role in the supply chain, and so on and so forth. This report, as I previously mentioned, is accessible via the Reach IT menu. And by clicking here, you will be redirected to the page where you can request it. Final improvement that came with this release is the asset annulment warning. This one is relevant to any sort of legal entity change that is happening, transferring of assets from one company to the other. And here, just to explain that in principle, one legal entity in Reach IT can have only one registration for a specific substance, meaning that you cannot have two different registration numbers, two different asset numbers for the same substance. This principle is now also applicable for CNL notifications versus registrations. What do I mean here? That if a legal entity has a CNL notification and a registration for the same substance, the CNL notification becomes annulled, is not valid anymore, since the registration dossier covers all the regulatory obligations that need to be fulfilled when submitting a CNL notification. So it's not relevant anymore, the CNL notification. Just to make it a bit more explicit, we can see here in this screenshot one example of a legal entity change and how the warning is being displayed. So in this example, we can see in the first row, in the left side, let's say, of the table, we have the assets that are being transferred from a specific company. It's the initiator company. And on the right side, we have the successor assets, which means the successor is the company who is receiving those assets. Now, we have in the first column, in the first row, a registration for substance 2544587. This is the EC number of the substance. And we see that the initiator has already a registration dossier for this substance. But at the same time, the successor has also a registration for this specific substance. That means that when we are transferring this registration from the initiator to the successor, the registration of the initiator will become annulled, and you will get a warning before you proceed with the legal entity change, since the registration that is already existing in the successor's portfolio, let's say, takes precedence of that. The same principle is also applicable now for CNL notifications. So in the example, if we see on the second row here, we have that the initiator has a registration for a substance with EC number 2434124. At the same time, the successor has already previously submitted a CNL notification for that specific substance as well. By transferring the registration from the initiator to the successor, automatically the successor's CNL notification will become annulled, since the registration that is transferred is enough in order to fulfill also the regulatory obligations of a CNL notification. So the CNL notification is not relevant anymore. And in this page, you can also see some help tips that they are existing on the right side of the page, let's say, when you start initiating a legal entity change and you get these warnings. Now, if we move a bit to what will come in the next couple of months, many of you probably are aware of the submission regime of bulk CNL notifications. So users or companies could have submitted in the past until 2016 a file containing many CNL notifications, so submission that happens once in bulk. But the problem, I'll say it was a bit problematic, this regime, and for that it was also discontinued in 2016. And that is because the CNL notifications that they were submitted were not in a Euclid format. I mean, they were not Euclid dossiers. And at the same time, we couldn't capture all the relevant administrative information regarding this specific CNL notification submission. So, for example, if you go now to a submission report in Rich IT for a CNL notification that was previously submitted in bulk, this is all that you are going to see in the submission report, which is not a lot of information, as you can see. Now, from early June, the first week of June in 2022, there's going to be a difference in this case, let's say, because we have already in ECA created Euclid dossiers for each one of the CNL notifications that was previously submitted in bulk, and we will link those dossiers to Rich IT. And at the same time, the administrative information that were missing in the past are going to be there. What do I mean by that? Is here. This is a screenshot of how the submission report will look like from early June for CNL notifications that were submitted in bulk in the past. And you can see that all the relevant information is here, and you can also request that Euclid file that we have created for you. And here, just to draw your attention that the submission number will be a bit different in the format, like a bit different from what the submission number looks usually in Rich IT. It's going to have a prefix of 4 extra digits in the end. And in order to facilitate you and be able to search for those substances that they were previously submitted in a bulk form, in the query page of Rich IT, we have added one more filter type, which is the CNL bulk. So by putting this filter there, you will be able from June 2022 to have a list of all the CNL notifications that now have been transformed into individual ones in Rich IT. Another new functionality or new feature that will come in mid-July in 2022 is also the possibility to submit CNL notifications using the system-to-system services that we are already providing in ECA. We have published the draft format documentation and in general all the relevant documentation that one needs in order to be able to submit via system-to-system to ECA. We have done that via a dedicated LinkedIn group that we have in ECA that we are talking directly with the S2S users, with the system-to-system users. And here, just to clarify that we are already accepting dossiers in ECA via system-to-system services. We are already doing that for the skip notifications and the poison senders notifications. So what we are doing now is we're just expanding this possibility for CNL notifications as well. More information on this will come gradually as it goes, but also feel free to visit the LinkedIn group where you can see all the relevant information and what has happened in the past as well. Last slide from my side is related to the non-claiming module that will be discontinued soon. This module existed and exists since 2009 in Rich IT, and here the notifiers of a substance under the previous regulatory regime before Rich, the so-called non-substances, are able to claim a Rich registration numbers. They were able to claim Rich registration numbers for those substances that they have notified in the past before Rich comes into force. And this has been going on, as I said, since 2009, and now it's time to discontinue the service. So from 17th of July, there was not going to be any more claiming module for any non-substances that you have previously submitted and you haven't claimed the registration number yet. And that's all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that you will enjoy the rest of the webinar. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Alexis Quintana Sainz. I work in the Data Availability Unit in ECA, and today I'm going to talk about only representatives, about the obligation to identify the non-EU manufacturer. Here in the table of content, you can see that first I will talk a bit on the background, why this declaration is now available. Then the information to declare, what kind of information you have to declare on the non-EU manufacturer. How this information is going to be done in Rich IT. Also, some words about the need to rearrange your Rich IT accounts in certain instances, the implementation and the timelines, a short demo on how to do it in Rich IT, and also the support that we have prepared for you. On the background. So the background is the review of Annex 6 of Rich. The review, it was published in the beginning of this year, and in one of the sections, it stipulates that the non-EU the only representatives have to identify the non-EU manufacturers. This is going to be compulsory from 14th of October. And in this update of Annex 6, it indicates what kind of information has to be indicated. So on the information to be declared. So first of all, it's whether the company is acting as an only representative or not. Once you have selected, for example, that the company is acting as an only representative of a non-EU manufacturer, then you have to provide some information on the non-EU manufacturer you are representing. So the name of the company, the address. Also, you have to identify one contact person and the contact details of this person. And here I would like to stress that this is a contact person from the non-EU manufacturer. Then also the location of the production or formulation sites as applicable, and the letter of appointment. In case you have a letter of appointment, you can also attach this information. This is a voluntary information, but it's available for you in Rich IT. I will show it later in the demonstration. So the declaration, as I was already told you, so the information will be declared in Rich IT. So this is what we would expect in order to do this declaration. Here you can see that we have on the top of the page 3 non-EU manufacturers that they are registering different substances. So for each of the non-EU manufacturers, if you are an only representative, you have to have a separate Rich IT account. So what we are adding here on the bottom. So each only representative needs to have a Rich IT account for each of the non-EU manufacturers they represent. So as this is going to be the case, so it might be that you're in a situation where you might need to rearrange your accounts. So you can rearrange the accounts if needed by 14th of October if you, and here we are saying 3 different cases. So if you represent more than one non-EU manufacturer from one Reach AT account. So if that's the case at the moment, you might need to rearrange your accounts and create additional Reach AT accounts where from each of them you will represent a separate non-EU manufacturer. This is because from each Reach AT account, you can only provide information of one of them. Another case for maybe rearranging the accounts is if you represent the same non-EU manufacturer from several Reach AT accounts at the moment. So take this chance and do the convenient rearrangement of your accounts. And the last is if you have registrations as an only representative and as a manufacturer importer from one Reach AT account. In that case, you also have to rearrange your accounts. For doing so, what you can do is to use the legal entity change functionality in Reach AT. You know that when doing a legal entity change that involves registrations, you will receive an invoice. So until 14th of October, this fee will be waived if it's requested by you. So I will talk a little bit later about the manual we have prepared where we're giving instructions to you on this. But if that's the case, you receive an invoice for your legal entity change, then you can contact ECA and provide an explanation that this is in order to rearrange your accounts. So before you start, what I'm saying here, take a look to the manual, only representatives, how to ensure that your account represents only one non-EU manufacturer. This manual is already available in the ECA website. So this is the manual that we have prepared for you. In the manual, we are providing background of the changes, also in which cases you should rearrange your Reach AT accounts, how to use the legal entity change functionality, and what to do when you are using it. For example, how to contact us in order for ECA to cancel your invoices, and also some practical examples to avoid the annulment of registrations and CNL notifications. I will, in the next slide, talk a bit on this. So this is one of the practical examples that we have put together. So this is on the top of the page, we have the initial situation when there is one Reach AT account that has registrations that belong to several non-EU manufacturers. These several non-EU manufacturers are based on the dark blue, light blue, and the yellow color. So this is how a company has at the moment used the Reach AT account. And as now, the only representative has to identify the non-EU manufacturer. So we required that you have a different account for each non-EU manufacturer you represent. So the end result will be that each Reach AT account represents a different non-EU manufacturer. So this is another example of the ones that we have in the manual. In this one, you can see on the top of the page the situation in the start, where we have 3 Reach AT accounts, and from each Reach AT account, we have registrations that belong to several non-EU manufacturers. So the end result is on the bottom of the page, where once again, from each Reach AT account, you will be representing a separate non-EU manufacturer. And in these examples, we are given steps by step of how to do it to avoid these annulments. And when I talk about the annulments is if you are an initiator and transfer some registrations to a successor, if the successor has registrations for the same substances, so then registrations that are being transferred will be annulled. So we want to avoid that this is happening. So that's why we are giving some indications on how to do it. And also I will talk later about the annulment calculator that we have put together, that we have implemented in Reach AT. So on the implementations and the timelines. So first of all, we recommend that you rearrange your accounts if needed. And for that, you will use the legal entity change functionality, which is free of charge before 14th of October. Then next time you will log in, maybe you have logged in already in ReachIT since we implemented this. We implemented this on the 26th of April. So when you log in ReachIT, you will get a pop-up message. This pop-up message is for all users. So there you can declare whether you use the account acting as an only representative or not. The declaration is done by users with the Reach Manager role, and the declaration is done one per account. So if a user that used the account declares it, then it will be declared as per the whole account. So the next user that will log in will not get this pop-up message. For those users that have reach read roles, they will get the message that somebody has to declare this information, but they will not be able to declare themselves. So once a user declares whether they are an only representative or not, this declaration cannot be changed. However, the information you provide on the non-EU manufacturer, that's editable. So everything is editable except actually the country of origin of the non-EU manufacturer. But the contact details, that information, it's of course editable. So the information on the non-EU manufacturer is under the Managed Companies section in ReachIT. So it's a new section available in your ReachIT account. And if you, for example, declare that you are acting as an only representative, the information on the non-EU manufacturer first will be compulsory. Until you fill out the information, the declaration will not be valid. And also the visibility of the non-EU manufacturer will be, of the non-EU manufacturer name will be always available for the user of the account. Here you can see in this print screen that we have John Q Chemicals, which is the name of the only representative per se. And then below we have OR of John Q Chemicals Australia. So for the user who has been logging in the account, they will see at all times who is the non-EU manufacturer they are representing. And we have done this because we are aware that there are plenty of only representatives representing several non-EU manufacturers, and that will provide more visibility of who is the non-EU manufacturer they are representing to avoid sending registrations from the wrong companies, from the wrong account, sorry. There is an option to display the name of the non-EU manufacturer in ReachIT in the joint submission, in the joint application of authorization, and in the coregistrants pages. So there is a, you will see when you will join, I will show that later in the demo, there is a tick box. If the tick box is ticked, then the members of the joint submission, all the coregistrants will be able to see who is the non-EU manufacturer who you are representing. This is completely voluntary. And also in case you are selecting a TPR, either in the joint submission page or in the submission when you are submitting the dossier, then the TPR, it will be visible, not the name of the non-EU manufacturer for those occasions when you selected the TPR. Also, I would like to clarify that the name of the non-EU manufacturer will not be displayed on ECA's dissemination website. This information is only for ReachIT. Okay, the timelines. So this should be done before the entry into force of this, which is on the 14th of October. So if you are declaring already this information, what ReachIT will do is check the consistency between ReachIT and Euclid when you submit a dossier. So if you submitted a dossier where in the Euclid dossier you indicated that you are an only representative, then ReachIT will check that actually you are submitting this information from the correct ReachIT account, and also you have indicated in ReachIT that you are acting as only representative. If no declaration is done in ReachIT, we will not check this information before 14th of October. After entry into force, so if the declaration of OR or NOAT is in ReachIT, we will once again check the consistency between ReachIT and Euclid so that you are submitting a dossier in Euclid where you indicated correctly that you are an OR or not. And if there is not declaration on the only representative on ReachIT, if you haven't declared what you are, So in that case, we will proceed differently depending on what you are submitting. If you are submitting a dossier where you have indicated that you are acting as an only representative in Euclid, then we will expect, ReachIT will expect that this declaration is already in ReachIT. Otherwise, there will be a business rule failure. And if you are submitting a Euclid dossier where you have indicated that you are a manufacturer and importer, then the declaration in ReachIT, it will not be mandatory. This is because on the Annex 6, in the review of Annex 6, what they are saying is that you have, as an only representative, indicate who is the non-EU manufacturer you are representing. They are not asking that you have to declare if you are a manufacturer or not. So if you are a manufacturer, for example, so that's why we are not requesting this information. So now we will go to a little demo. So see, this is the screen where you will log in. This is the screen where you will log in ReachIT. So let's do, just to tell you that this information is a account that I have created, sorry, for testing purposes. So this company doesn't exist. So let's log in. Okay. Here. So when you log in ReachIT, if you haven't declared whether you are an only representative or not, you will get this blue screen. Don't be alarmed. Read the message. So basically what we are asking is information whether you are an only representative or not. If you are an only representative, you click this one. If you are not using this ReachIT account, being representing an non-EU manufacturer, then you will click this other one. And I mean, before you do the declaration, think about what kind of account is this one. If you don't have all the information, for example, if you don't have all the information on the non-EU manufacturer, you can click on declare later, and then you can do it later. But let's see that, say that for the purpose of this demonstration, we are using this account as an only representative of a non-EU manufacturer. Here there is a confirmation page, and here we are warning you that this declaration cannot be changed. So once you have declared that you are a non-EU manufacturer, then, sorry, you are using the account as an only representative, then that will stay there. So we are being taken to this page. We have indicated that we are an only representative. So now we have to provide information on the non-EU manufacturer here. So for example, the company name. So this is the company name of the non-EU manufacturer. Then the national company number ID, if it's available. The website, this is voluntary as well. And then here we can put the name of the street, the postal code, the city, and then the country. As I was saying before, once you select it, you cannot edit this information. So before the selection, yeah, try to figure out that is the correct country there. And this is the tick box that I was mentioning before, where you will tick if you wish to disclose the name of the non-EU manufacturer in ReachIT. Here in the topic help, we are indicated where this information will be visible in ReachIT. And as I was saying earlier, this information will not be disseminated in ECA webpage. We go to the next page, and in here we will indicate the contact person from the non-EU manufacturer. I mean, not from the only representative, but from the non-EU manufacturer. So I already filled before, so it goes faster. So it's the name, last name, email address, and also the phone number. I mean, it's the email address. There is none John Q. Smith in ECA, and this telephone number is also not working. So the next step is specify the sites and roles of the non-EU manufacturer as applicable. So this information is compulsory. So we will select one of the address sites. So Morton Street in Australia. I haven't put the name of the city. We should do it. Then you indicate if this site address, if you are manufacturing or if you are a formulator or an article producer. This information is once again compulsory. Before we go to the next step, which this one is voluntary. And in this one, you can provide any available documentation you may have from the non-EU manufacturer, for example, appointing you as their only representative. You can do this information. You can add this information here. In this case, I'm not attaching anything. And at the end, we go to this review step where you can review the information that was provided previously and make sure that is correctly indicated. In case it is not, or if you want to attach a document, so you can go to edit and then you can edit this information. Once we click yes, then we get a confirmation, and then we can just move outside from this page. For example, going to the main page of ReachIT. In case you don't do it when you get the blue screen, how you can access to this information? Well, you go to the menu, and as I was saying, so under Manage Company, there is this section here, Information on the non-EU manufacturer. You click there, and then you get this information. As we have indicated this information already, the information is there, and you can edit it. In case you click on edit, you will have a history of the different editions, and yes, you will see the most recent one on the top of the page. So the date of the update. So you can edit this information. For example, if the contact person in the non-EU manufacturer has changed, or if you want to add a site address, this information can be edited. The only thing I was saying that you cannot edit is to change the name of the country, and to change if you are an only representative or not an only representative. If you, of course, declare by mistake that you are an only representative where you aren't, or the other way around, of course, you can contact ECA and we will fix this for you. We will actually reset all this information, and you would be able to start from the very beginning. So, if you are using foreign users, because I know that some of you use the foreign user functionality in ReachIT. So you have it on the top of the page. Okay, so here. On the top of the page, you have it, and I'm a foreign user of two accounts, the testing and messaging account and the Unicor chemicals. So if you would if you would change to another account, for example, the Unicor chemicals, then it gives you a warning that we are changing. Yes. So if from this account, from this Unicorn Chemicals account, you haven't declared what you are, you will be able to declare what you are, and without the need to log into that account directly. So you will start the declaration as we have done it with the current account. So now we can move back to the presentation. Yeah, I will like to conclude the presentation with what kind of support we have prepared for you. So first thing is the news on the ECA website that we prepare on the 25th of April. So this was before we went live with this implementation of ReachIT. Then the manual that we have prepared for you, it's under the manuals of Reach. Only representatives, how to ensure that your account represents only one non-EU manufacturer. There we are providing the background and the practical information on how to do these legal entity changes if you need to rearrange your accounts. Then we have a registration report in ReachIT accounts. I will talk a bit about that in the next slide. There you can find registrations You will be able to find all your registrations and see if you, by mistake, for example, you declare mixed roles. For example, for some account, you indicated that you are an only representative. For other, you indicated that you are a manufacturer and importer. You know that you can be a manufacturer and importer from the same Rich IT account, but you cannot be a manufacturer and an only representative from the same Rich IT account. More information on that in the manual that I indicated before. And then we have the legal entity change wizard that we also have done something to help you to avoid annulment of your registrations. And this webinar that we have prepared for you today. And of course, we have ECA Helpdesk to support you in case you need some support. So the downloadable list of registrations in the menu, in the main menu, we have a new section called reports. And there you can get a report with the list of registrations that you have. There you will see the registration status, the role you have in the supply chain, as submitted in the dossier in Euclid. There you can see if there are some inconsistencies if you have declared wrongly for some registrations. Then the role in the joint submission, tonnage band, and some other information. So just go there, click, and it will take some time for the report to be produced, and you will get a warning on that when the report is ready. You will get a message in Rich IT when the report is ready. And the last thing that we have prepared, because we are aware that some companies will have to rearrange their accounts. So what we have included this annulment calculator to warn you in case you are doing a transferring from one account to another, warning you which of the registrations or CNL notifications might be annulled if you proceed. In case you realize you get a warning and you don't want to proceed, then you will simply send back to the initiator of the legal entity change transfer, and they will be able to correct. This information we are providing to you in the manual. So take a look to the manual. So this is what I wanted to talk about today. We have a Q&A session now. If you have some questions related to this topic, we will be happy to answer to them. And of course, if you need some further support, you can contact ECA Helpdesk, and as always, we will be happy to help you. So thank you very much from my side, and have a nice rest of the day.
So that concludes today's webinar. If you haven't already submitted a question but would like to, go to slido.com and type in the event code on the screen. You can also pause the video now and scan the QR code below with your phone. If you did not receive an answer to your question, please make contact with us at the link on the screen. And as a reminder, if you would like to revisit some of the material that was presented to you today, the video recording, presentations, and all of the Q&As available from our webinars page. Thank you so much for your attention. We do hope that you have found this webinar informative and helpful.